When a video game is released, it is a miracle. In fact, there are many miracles that have to happen before its release. Even after the release of that game matters if it needs to be maintained. There are so many possible steps to game development, with each one of those steps having intricacies to them that cannot be overlooked. When a capital B bad game comes out, we can all look at it and say, dang, that came out like that? Yeah, it did. All poorly made games, one way or another, made it to the finish line. You know, when the lights finally go out on a long-running online game, some might get sad, but at least it had life, even if finite. The way that game goes out, with a bang or whimper, doesn't matter. There was still life. To me, there's nothing more sad than when a video game goes stillborn. Were there any games you were excited about that ended up getting cancelled? I can think of a few. One of them was Grapple Knight. It was over a decade ago that I helped kickstart that game. Grapple Knight was the first indie project that I was invested in. I remembered when I discovered the game myself too, not due to its Kickstarter showing me that it existed, but because of a YouTuber I used to watch.
Hey everyone, Zephyr here, and this is Grapple Knight, the game I'm running through today for my Steamer Vapor series that I'm doing on the Steam Greenlight games.
You know, I hope Zephyr's doing alright. He really got me into niche games. I don't even think I would have played Cave Story without him giving it to me for being a viewer. I know I said thanks back then, but I want to say thanks again. That was really cool of you. Anyway, back on topic. Grapple Knight was going to be a momentum-based action platformer, a type of game you would find on the SNES or Genesis. The main gimmick, the grapple, was pretty great even for the early demo. Grapple Knight felt rough, but it was snappy. A wave of nostalgia washed over me as I flung myself everywhere too. Yeah, I really remember vibing with Grapple Knight. Jumping off a slope would result in a boost of speed, and there was a combo meter for doing different actions. Although, on the first demo, this was said to the developer about that combo meter. You need to decide if you want the focus to be on platforming or on both. Or at the very least, have the platforming and the combat interrelate better. As it stands, there is no reason for there to be a combat counter or a combo system. That was said by Skeleton as Skeleton. I can't speak for the first public iteration of Grapple Knight, but the one I started with uses the action combo system fine. I'm even familiar with the concept being used because I played a Sonic fan game a lot that had it, which is also unfinished at this time. Oh, and also, the sprite work and the music were passable to me. The other iterations would improve what was here, or show something new, with one exception, but we'll get there. Version 1.7.9 would give us a peek of the story for the first time. Jurin takes on the mantle of a fallen knight, and would go on a quest to save his homeland from an evil alchemist. It's basic, but it works for me. For the gameplay, a slide was added to aid the momentum mechanic. That was there already. You wouldn't simply jump off a slope with extra momentum, but you would go from a slide into the boosted jump. And there was also a swinging mechanic that was added to the game. The swinging at this point is annoying as it slows down the flow of movement almost abruptly. I'm sure they intended for the momentum to be kept for the movement, but it wasn't working quite right. The demo also comes with a boss fight at the end instead of normal enemies. The demo versions 1.8.1 and 1.8.2 would add music and fix a little bit more bugs. I think the best of the demos was 1.8.2, as it shows the best the game has to offer so far, showing off the game's mechanics that I've mentioned earlier, and a boss at the end to cap it all off. Although I still have the bias towards the first demo I played, because again, I didn't really care for how the swinging was implemented. Although I did say that there was an exception. 1.8.6. The last demo of Grapple Knight. To quote myself directly after playing it, I hate this. In this version of Grapple Knight, I experienced falling off the map, getting stuck in the ground just a little bit so I have to jump twice to get out, jank hitboxes, and the grapple hook mechanic putting me out of bounds. To make matters worse, when you are out of bounds, you have to restart because there's no death plane. Oh, and the swinging mechanic did not improve. But hey, at least the game looks better, right? Just ignore the fact that the animations have errors in them. I'll say it again. I hate this. The improvement of the looks mean nothing if it doesn't play well. Not to mention, you can see the background of the level through the walls of the foreground. But maybe the writing was on the wall with the quality of this demo. The Kickstarter was getting fewer and fewer posts, even after it was successfully backed. The small dev team were working 2 jobs, all of which were at a graveyard shift to keep finances stable. One of those team members had a grandmother that suffered a stroke, and so they had to take time off. The dev team had it rough. I completely understand that. I also understand if someone needs to take time away for their family. But if all this is happening, why couldn't we get an update properly? This post, by the way, wasn't even in the update section. This was in the comments. Consistent communication is vital when people put money into your product. If something goes wrong, tell us. If it fails, give people back their money. Man, I don't even remember if I got my money back. Given the time that this was going on, I know I would have spent it on fast food. But that would have been much better than what I and the other people got. Nothing. Twist Tales is what comes to mind next. A narrative-driven action platformer that was being made by Cat on Tree Studio. Unlike Grapple Knight, I couldn't play this one again. Wish I could, but I do have old footage. Twist Tales takes place at the end of the original Cinderella story. Cinderella is about to get married to the prince, but a sort of corruption ruins everything. Her beloved gets taken, and her universe starts collapsing. With the help of a magical grimoire, in search of the truth, she walks into various fairy tales. I remember finding this game on Twitter. I enjoyed both the 2D and 3D art styles the game had, especially from the intro of the demo. Getting to play Twist Tales was a good time all around, even with the enemy AI being easy to abuse. To this day, I still don't know how this happened. Anyway, between the combat and platforming sections, the former was the stronger aspect of the demo. Platforming, even with the challenges that were presented, was pretty basic. Don't get me wrong, it's a good start, but I found these sections to be far too easy. Combat, on the other hand, had my full attention. Cinderella uses the book for different spells. The normal attacks are done with the sword, but you'll have other weapons for doing different attacks. You can only access these moves if you had monocrystals for them. Greatsword, shotgun, rope, candy cane, bow, and the top hat. You can dodge and counterattack if you have good timing. And Cinderella also had a Transcendence form, but you can only use it when the meter was filled. As I mentioned, the enemy AI was easy to deal with, including the boss, mostly because of the counter. The counterattack was too strong. You could focus on this move exclusively and you would win the fights easily. I'm not sure how one would tone down the counter, whether it be reducing the damage or adding a cooldown, maybe both. I only felt like something needed to be done. I mean, do you not see this? This is far too strong. You can use it all the time and you're invincible. I also believed it would be cool if the spells could utilize the counterattack mechanic too in different ways, whether you get a buff yourself or put status effects on the enemies. I thought about stuff like this because I felt the spells needed to be more unique than simply just dealing more damage. I do remember feeling that the shotgun and the candy cane were a bit on the weaker side, and both of those spells were the least used. This was due to the candy cane and the shotgun being a little bit on the slower side. I also felt that the sword spell and the candy cane could be combined into a 360 spin into the overhead smash at the end. And you know, besides my criticisms of the early demo, I played enough of the game to have hope. Hope that disappears slowly. The Twist Tales Kickstarter came and went. I even threw money at it myself, but it wasn't enough. The Kickstarter failed. They stated that the market has been challenging and they couldn't weather the storm. Not being able to get money is of course a big issue, but how do you get money from people? The marketing needed to be on point. On the platforms that they advertised on, I personally feel they didn't do enough. Of course, I could say they could have posted more, but that's not always the case. People loved American McGee's Alice, and the sequel, Alice Returns to Madness. Might be a stretch, but showing those people Twist Tales might have been a good idea. People also just enjoy a dark twisting of a fairy tale that's well known, and I'm not just talking about games, maybe just media in general. What they asked for on Kickstarter might have been a lot, but I think showing people who are fans of the Alice games, fans of action platformers, people who like dark retellings of fairy tales, maybe they would talk about it enough where casual gamers hear about it and check it out. I personally came to Twist Tales for the aesthetic and I stayed for the combat because I saw potential in it. You know, I had to ask the person who set up Cat on Tree Studio, who was in charge of marketing, and I found out it was himself and another person later. While being a game developer, you may not have the time to work on a good marketing plan. The person that came later might have just been too late at that point. If there's any sort of silver lining to this, is that he wants to do more with Twist Tales, but there's a lot of legal obstacles. I sincerely hope that Twist Tales makes a comeback. It was such a cool concept, but if it can't, I've made my peace with that already. And for this last game, we have Neverinth. For this Rogue Souls, I want you to walk with me in this never-ending labyrinth. From the first moment, I'm put at a crossroads, but I choose to go right to fight my first enemy. The combat is standard Souls-like affair. Both dodging and attacking are linked to stamina. Strafing is perfect for dealing with fodder. Heavy attacks deal with them easily too. I made the choice to go back because I had a feeling where I was going was progression. I want some good loot. 2 throwing knives and some enemies later, I find myself leveling up, getting a set amount of stats. These stats lean towards a defensive character, which makes sense given what she starts with. But this system is new to me because when I originally played Neverinth, it wasn't there. The leveling system is a great way to differentiate the characters from one another, and there are a total of 3. You will learn more about them later. I do find earrings that give me a temporary shield, and increase my damage by 1% for every 3 points of stamina. Since that point, the hours I initially put into the game slowly started reinstalling into my brain. Where things spawn in each room layouts, the enemies that I come across, how to use the block better, but not the goddess statue. This was the old goddess statue for progression. Put currency in, get stat points, and maybe a passive ability. Instead, with the new goddess statue, you will have to pick the passive you want to obtain and hope you get it sooner rather than later. You will eventually get what you want no matter what, because if you fail, the percentage will go up. And you will get raw stats too. This system is an improvement because I can be more strategic with how I build my character instead of relying on pure gambling, as fun as that may sound. At this point, I remembered how EX moves work. EX moves are faster attacks, but you will have life debt. Think of life debt as gray life in a fighting game. The difference is, in Neverinth, you have to sacrifice HP, but the HP will recover over time. As I wander the dungeon, I do more fighting, but I also find a new weapon, the Sword of Power. This is a direct upgrade. The Sword of Power also has a passive that increases elemental damage. After getting more points, I put them into strength, agility, health, and a touch of luck and defense. This should be enough to deal with the first boss in the game, Garm. He has basic attacks like the bite, slamming with his hand, slamming with his tail. If you're behind him, he'll put down poison with his tail, or he'll do a tail swipe. If you're under him for too long, he will jump back, and from a distance, he does have moves to attack you with, but because my character is not ranged, that didn't happen too much. If you've experienced Dark Souls gameplay, this boss is easy. As a matter of fact, I think if you haven't played any of those games, I believe you can get away with beating him on your first try. After I beat him, I collected my prizes. More potions, equipment, and cubes. The equipment I got was notable. Queen Carol's Wish. These earrings make it easier to obtain passives from the goddess, which in my opinion is very welcomed. After all that was said and done, I proceeded to the next level. With the experience I got from Garm, I mainly picked up more strength and agility, but get some health and defense on the side. As I went through the area, I came across the same weapon, but a new necklace. I kept my current one because it was better for dealing with elemental attacks, since it cuts that damage in half. After fighting a cultist and taking unnecessary damage, I find a room with one explosive bottle. There are 3 breakable walls, and you are meant to pick one of them. I pick the middle, and I find a katana and magic. The curved katana makes it easier to interrupt enemies when attacking. It also reduces the stamina cost for dodging. The magic is Void Mutation. Void increases the range of your weapon attack. The Void Mutation synergizes with my weapon, so it's a must-have. I also try out the katana. It's nice, but I won't use it this run. Then I come across the cultist Cathar. This dude is the main reason why I had trouble in the past in this level. He's slow, but has a big weapon that attacks in a wide range. But some might just call him a little guy. I don't know, that's your call. Depending on the room you fight him in, it could make this a bit more difficult. You wouldn't want to fight him in a small room. After getting the cube from his body, I scout out the rest of the area, despite this little guy revealing a necklace. Honestly, I just forgot to check what that necklace did. Besides taking more damage than I needed to, I thought this level was easier to get through this time than before. Maybe too easy. I think getting guaranteed stats from leveling and the new goddess system made it that way. But at that time I wasn't sure. Okay. Maybe it might be more accurate just to call him a little guy. I almost feel bad. However, remember I said he can be harder if you fight him in a smaller room. This would be it. So I decided to pull him away into a bigger room, which then made the fight easier. I noticed I'm near the boss, so I get my passive skills. I put most of my points into agility and get some strength and health, because they're also important to me. I will add that even if the effects are important, I just wasn't thinking about them at the time. I just kinda chose what I thought was nice. What happened in the final stretch of rooms wasn't much, but I'll say I did find a new sword and shield, I found out projectiles can collide with one another, picked up some new earrings because of the temporary shield that it can give, with the EXP bonus attached, and used the goddess statue once more. Then I felt like I was ready. I know it's just a big ol' arena like Garm, but I do prefer this one because of the snow. No, I don't know how it's snowing indoors. Let's just say it's magic. The cultist mentor is a more interesting fight than Garm. He does have easily readable moves that you can dodge at the start. He does have a move where he places a barrel bomb, you can hit it yourself, or you can make him hit it. Either way, it's best to stay away from it. He also did a new move that was added when I quit the game. When I first saw the move, I was definitely laughing during the fight. I like it, it gives him a little bit more personality compared to the other boss. I wonder if he's like the other Cathars. Blocking the move wasn't a good idea, but it was worth trying. When he puts down the bomb the second time, I make sure I get him to hit it. It only does 210 damage. I remember seeing this initially and thinking, wow, this is gonna take a while. Especially because I don't think I have the stats to fight him properly. I went at this for a long time, to the point where he started doing his big attack, which I was able to deal with the first time, but to be more accurate, I kinda just face tanked it and healed afterwards. While he did his lightning fist move again, I was in a better position, and in fact I was able to break his poise. I was able to get some damage in, but honestly it was quite pitiful. But something is better than nothing. Even if I burned all my healing items, I thought I would be fine, especially with all the work I put in. Like I said, most of his attacks are easily readable and can be reacted to properly. However, just watching this back makes me frustrated. All that work for nothing. Whether you win or lose, the result screens will reveal what the cubes were and show you everything you unlocked. The cubes will become some sort of polygon corresponding to one of the stats: health, strength, defense, agility, and luck. You are to place these in a loadout to fill it out to get bonus stats and passives. Having a proper loadout will have the next set of runs go more smoothly. I did find that choosing another character means that I have to start from level 1 again. Level progression not carrying over isn't exactly a bad thing. That said, in my second run, I stuck with the same character. I found a great katana, and then I completely destroyed the mentor, and the final boss. Playing Neverinth over and over got me thinking about what could be added. The girls that you get to play vary only a little. The blue-haired girl rolls, the redhead leaps, and the black-haired one does a quick step. Something you would find in Sekiro. Which, fun fact, in order to unlock her, you have to die twice. Anyway, this is a good start, but what if they had a unique passive that lets them handle combat situations in unique ways? The redhead kinda has this already in her leap, as you can do an attack with it. The others can't start a fight like that. You have to simply run in and slash away, or pull with the throwing knives. On the flip side, her leap isn't the best for defense. The leap doesn't have good invincibility frames. With her, you're better off just running to the sides, or trying to parry. And thinking about all this got me wondering, what if the black-haired character was able to do bonus damage for doing light attacks into the special weapon attack? Maybe the blue-haired character can block better than the others. All these things can encourage a specific kind of playstyle that's unique to that character and that character alone, especially affecting how you get items and accessories. This isn't even talking about how there's supposed to be 5 characters total. What if we had a rogue, archer, or maybe a mage archetype? I would be so down for pure unadulterated rogue activities. The rogue can utilize the backstab mechanic because I do know that was in the game when I first played it, but it only ever appeared when the enemy was unaware. Maybe the archer can use luck for crit chance as well as item finding. Similar to a previous game I played, Last Hero of Nasilgaia. And if there was a mage, she can use the elements better than the others. Of course, balancing would be necessary for these characters, but you see what I mean, right? And characters are only one aspect of Neverinth that can be expanded on. Adding different weapons, adding different items, and maybe even adding a way to challenge the veteran players by adding conditions to each run, similar to Risk of Rain 2 and even Spiritfall. I can talk about the what-ifs all day for Neverinth, but I know nothing is gonna come from it. June 17th, 2020. The producer at Creact Games, Alex, made a formal announcement to cease development on Neverinth. This is due to running out of money, but to make matters worse, one of his close family members was diagnosed with blood cancer. He wanted to continue, but he couldn't, and had to stop. Neverinth had 3 fully developed areas, 3 playable characters with distinct weapons, 4 working bosses, several types of items, and a working loadout and leveling system. As it is now, it's an alright game, with plenty of unfinished aspects to the gameplay, and presentation as well. I'm sad I can't see Neverinth completed, especially with this fascinating combination of gameplay elements, but I get it. If you're dealt a bad hand, sometimes you might have to fold. And in this case, that was the reality for Alex and his team. When a video game goes stillborn, it's tragic. And it's not just Grapple Knight, Twist Tales, or Neverinth that suffer this fate, but all unfinished projects with untapped potential. The closer the game is to the finish line, the deeper the cut gets when you find out the game is just no more. The pain only worsens when I know it was so close to being finished that I could see myself enjoying the full experience. But all unfinished games have their own tragic tale. No matter the budget, the developers, or the passion for the craft, sometimes it's just, it doesn't come to be. And you know what? For both AAA games and indie games, that sucks.